So we must do two things, two great things together to encompass that enormous new view that lies before us, but to encompass it within the framework of science, to see it within the whole categorical framework of science, and to see that these two are not separate, but that they are wedded. The bigness of the idea, the newness of the idea, the greatness of it is one with the structure of science, the structure of being itself.
So, excuse me, we are at the last paragraph in that section on principle. The marginal heading there is spiritual idea crowned. The spiritual idea is crowned with 12 stars. So she had a crown of 12 stars. 12 is always demonstration, isn't it? It's that 12 of demonstration that the spiritual idea operates as a calculus, a 4 by 3, therefore as demonstration. The moment we touch the woman state of thought, the spiritual idea, which is the coincidence between divine principle and idea, it is self-demonstrating. It indicates that the spiritual idea is self-demonstrating. It demonstrates itself. You know what that means? The spiritual idea demonstrates the spiritual idea. Not the temple, not the superstructure, not the surface structure. The spiritual idea demonstrates the spiritual idea. So it's again the difference that we see, the contrast from the 5,000-year period of using ideas. In the 5,000-year period standpoint, we use ideas, or we use laws. We might use laws. We might be very advanced. We don't use ideas anymore. We're going to use laws now to make a demonstration, to take control of our lives. Whereas when we come into the 6th and the 7th, especially the 7th 1,000-year period, we see that that crown of 12 stars is on the idea, and that it demonstrates itself. That our demonstration becomes the demonstration of the spiritual idea. So the coincidence of principle and idea demonstrates the coincidence of principle and idea. And in the human, we don't know what that will look like. We don't know what it will look like. But that's the difference between demonstrating the deep structure or demonstrating a surface structure. But it is that principle translates itself as its idea, period. And this is the answer, this is the solution, this is the demonstration in the 6th and 7th, especially the 7,000-year period. What do we see with our model of being? The model of the 7,000-year period consciousness? We really get a new 12, a new crown of 12 stars, because these 12 points of intersection are principles demonstration, aren't they? Huh? Isn't that what we have? That one infinite principle. What is the idea of that principle? What is the operation of that principle? Those 12 points of intersection that we see on the levels of divine science, absolute Christian science, it's the new 12. These are the stars of today. These are the 12 stars. This is the crown of today that we have to put on. They are principles demonstration of itself, the deep structure. And that's what we have to rejoice in. She goes on, the 12 tribes of Israel with all mortals. Now we have not 12 stars, but 12 tribes. So, as though to say, that first primitive sense of demonstration, our earliest sense of how the principle operated, of the idea of the principle, is with all mortals. That's with us all. What is that? It's, she says, separated by belief from man's divine origin and the true idea. See, separated by belief from divine science. That true origin and the divine idea will, through much tribulation, yield to the activities of the divine principle in the harmony of science. Will yield to the 12 stars. Will yield to, what do we see in the model of being? The activities of the divine principle in the harmony of science. These are the stars in the crown of rejoicing. They are the lamps in the spiritual heavens of the age. Isn't that gorgeous, huh? They're the lamps in the spiritual heavens of the age, which show the workings of the spiritual idea. By healing the sick and the sinning, and by manifesting the light which shines unto the perfect day as the night of materialism wanes. So these are our stars. This is our crown of rejoicing. And we only need to ask, are we rejoicing over what kind of a demonstration? Are we rejoicing over our old primitive sense of demonstration before the 3.5? Or are we rejoicing in the temple demonstration, the surface structure? Or are we rejoicing in principles demonstration of itself? Principle demonstrating its own idea. Max says, humanly it seems to be tribulation, but divinely it's the working out of the divine idea. So again, in the 5,000-year period, we know what the problem is. That's the standpoint at which we know what the problem is. We know what must be rectified and changed. And hence we're very, we feel secure in that standpoint. We like the security of at least knowing what the problem is, don't we? And hopefully the security of knowing what has to be changed and worked out. But in the 6th and the 7,000-year period, in the womanhood state, we don't know. We don't even know what the problem is. Only principle knows what is being worked out. We only know it generically. We only know the genus. We only know the genus of that idea of the principle. So the difference is that in the 5th, we use principle. We try to use principle. We use metaphysics. We try to apply metaphysics. As we go on, that doesn't work anymore, and we find that we're coming into the 6th and the 7,000-year periods where principle uses us. Coming into science. So these are the criteria for testing our demonstration, testing whether we have made or whether we are making our demonstration. It's the criteria of the 5th, 6th, and 7th 1,000-year period consciousness. My, isn't there a lot in that subject that we've just looked at? And so we come to mind. Remember that we're in the Christianity order. We've just looked at principle. Now she goes on to mind. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. This is the sense of the bigness of that birth, the greatness of that birth, the fact that the spiritual idea is the idea of the parent mind. Therefore, it is as big as the parent mind in quality. It is therefore great. Also, the spiritual idea is typified by a woman in travail, waiting to be delivered of her sweet promise. See, it's sweet. It never gets bitter. But remembering no more her sorrow, for joy that the birth goes on. This is the attitude we must have through the whole process. For great is the idea and the travail portentous. That the travail is indicative of the bigness of the idea. Then she comes to the soul tone. A spiritual idea is always safe. This is the epitome. Always safe in the face of animal magnetism. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. It is the claim of animal magnetism, the claim of an opposite. And we are going to see that the idea is never touched. The safety of the idea is intact. That whatever would claim to destroy that idea is going to be destroyed itself. She says, human sense may well marvel at discord, while to a diviner sense, that's a sense of love, the divine sense, harmony is the real, and discord the unreal. We may well be astonished at sin, sickness, and death, we may well be perplexed at human fear, and still more astounded at hatred, which lifts its hydra head, showing its horns in the many inventions of evil. But why stand aghast at nothingness? See, this is the love tone now that's coming in. Love that sees error as nothing, knows it as to be nothing. Why should we stand aghast at nothingness? That's the womanhood. The great red dragon symbolizes a lie. The belief that substance, life, and intelligence can be material. It stands for the sum total of human error. The 10 horns typify the belief that matter has power of its own. But you see, she put matter under her feet, didn't she? And that by means of evil, of an evil mind in matter, a mind in matter, see, if matter is underfoot, then the mind in matter is underfoot. This is just the claim that that mind in matter can use those 10 commandments and break them. The revelator lifts the veil from this embodiment of all evil and beholds its awful character. Reminds us of what she said about the awful unreality of evil. That is disclosed now. The awful unreality of evil. The veil is lifted from all evil, and its awful character is seen. But he also sees, you see, the nothingness of evil and the allness of God. You hear the equipoise? The revelator sees that old serpent, whose name is devil or evil, holding untiring watch that he may bite the heel of truth and seemingly impede the offspring of the spiritual idea, which is prolific in health, holiness, and immortality. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven. Remember that 3rd part is now always the counterfeit sense. And did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. The serpentine form stands for subtlety, winding its way amidst evil, but doing this in the name of good. Its sting is spoken of by Paul when he refers to spiritual wickedness in high places. It is the animal instinct in mortals. It's that instinct within the mortal consciousness that would destroy that idea, that would bite the heel of that idea, which would impel them to devour each other and cast out devils through Beelzebub. As of old, evil still charges the spiritual idea with error's own nature and methods. This malicious animal instinct, of which the dragon is a type, so we have another type. Woman is a type, and the dragon is a type, incites mortals to kill morally and physically, even their fellow mortals, and worse still, to charge the innocent with the crime. Now we see the world filled with this phenomenon, don't we? And we have to trace it back. We have to trace it back to its origin. This last infirmity of sin will sink its perpetrator into a night without a star. The author is convinced that the accusations against Jesus of Nazareth and even his crucifixion were instigated by the criminal instinct here described. So John has reduced to a type that very instinct, that very thing, that very classification of evil that was responsible for the crucifixion. The Revelator speaks of Jesus as the Lamb of God and of the dragon as warring against innocence. The Lamb is the innocence. It's the innocence of love. Since Jesus must have been tempted in all points, he, the Immaculate, met and conquered sin in every form. The brutal barbarity of his foes could emanate from no source except the highest degree of human depravity. Jesus opened not his mouth. That was how he dealt with it. A touch of love. He didn't fight back, He dealt with it from the standpoint of love. He knew that his mission was being fulfilled. He didn't keep his mouth closed because he was afraid that it might be worse, or that he didn't open his mouth and spew out a lot of fighting remarks and tried to fight back. He opened not his mouth, was indicating a standpoint of consciousness which knew that love and love's idea was the only thing going on and being fulfilled. Until the majesty of truth should be demonstrated in divine science, and love demonstrates the majesty of truth, the spiritual idea was arraigned before the tribunal of so-called mortal mind, which was unloosed in order that the false claim of mind in matter might uncover its own crime. See? It was uncovering itself. Error has that seed built into itself, the seed of self-destruction, self-uncovering, self-destruction. Might uncover its own crime of defying immortal mind. You know, there's so many times when it's when that's the highest wisdom, to allow the process of error's own uncovering to go on, and not run out, run amok, try to clear everything up, try to make a statement that states your position or what you understand to be going on, or how you understand the divine idea to be operating, and that be sure that the other guy knows that that is what's going on and everything. But to let love handle error. And when love handles error, then truth is demonstrated in divine science, and the error uncovers its own crime. This is much higher, much more effective, much more efficient, far, far more efficient than we could ever be in our attempts to speak for truth and love. From Genesis to the Apocalypse, she gives that full range now, the whole Bible. Sin, sickness, and death, envy, hatred, and revenge, all evil, are typified by a serpent or animal subtlety. We had that serpent in the second record of creation, which now is just full-blown, fully ripe for its total extinction at the point of revelation. Jesus said, quoting a line from the Psalms, "They hated me without a cause." This is so true, that error has no cause, it has no reason, no reasonableness, no rationale from which it originates. The serpent is perpetually close upon the heel of harmony. From the beginning to the end, the serpent pursues with hatred the spiritual idea. In Genesis, this allegorical talking serpent typifies mortal mind, more subtle than any beast of the field. As your false field, your field that has to be leavened, your field that has to be catalyzed, you see, right from the start of Genesis. Remember we said that the Bible develops that whole sense of the field, that it begins with an initial statement of the true field, that God made every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. And then the very next thing we have is an indication of the false field, the field of ignorance, and how that will be leavened through the 1,000-year periods by the true field. So that talking serpent is the essence, comes from the essence of that field of ignorance. In the apocalypse, when nearing its doom, this evil increases and becomes the great red dragon, swollen with sin, inflamed with war against spirituality, and ripe for destruction. It's been developed, fully developed now to the point of attaining its own complete destruction. It is full of lust and hate, loathing the brightness of divine glory. Well, this is in the equipollents, huh? The I am not. It doesn't matter how big that not is, right? Whether it's the whole of mortal mind or the whole of matter, the whole of the sense testimony. It is, I am not mortal mind. I am not matter. I am not sense testimony. It's the nothingness of that which can appear to be as big as it wants to be. It's still nothing.